everyone, it's a Gridiron Geek. I'm coming back at you with my next review of Black Mirror. This one's on the third episode entitled Crocodile. I was pretty excited for this episode after seeing some of the concepts, seeing memory through a device and how it could be subjective, so I thought that was a really interesting concept. So the story is based on Mia and Rob, who end up hitting a cyclist and covering up his death. 15 years later, Rob is feeling really guilty and wants to confess the crime, and Mia's like, how about we don't and say we did? Well, while Mia is taking care of Rob, she witnesses an accident between a pedestrian and a self-driving vehicle. Shazia is hired to investigate it for the insurance claim to see who was at fault, either the pedestrian or the self-driving vehicle, and uses a memory recaller in order to figure out exactly what happened that night. As the plot thickens, Shazia discovers Mia was there that night and has to go interview Mia. Well, that was the same night that she took care of Rob. Bum, bum, bum. So that's the whole setup there. So, like I said, it starts out, they're driving away from a club, took like 100 different drugs, and they hit the cyclist. And you can see the dude laying there, and he has the international signal for this dude's dead by having his leg cocked to the side. It seems to happen in every movie or TV show. I don't know, like if you walk up on a body and the leg's like that, even in real life, I'm going to be like, that dude's dead. There's just no way he survived that leg breaking. They end up like putting the body in a sleeping bag, tossing it over the cliff, and they're like, well, wipe their hands clean from that one. Nothing wrong here. So then it turns 15 years later, and Mia and Rob are meeting together again. She's like on a business trip, and she has like this successful career, is a family woman and such. And Rob had heard on the news that the woman who was married to the cyclist that they killed still thinks he's alive, still thinks he's out there somewhere. And now Rob's feeling really guilty. Only took 15 years. And Mia's like, no, we can't do that. And he's like, I'm gonna tell her. And she's like, over my dead body. Or actually, how about your dead body? And just beats the shit out of him. He's dead. Then to cover up, I guess that, and like her like hiding the body, she rents a porn movie. She looks through the different porns, and like instead of choosing the first one, which I don't understand why she had to scroll through, and like, well, at least want some good porn while I'm on here. She skips over Wraith Babes, which is a reference to the 15 Million Merits episode from the first season. So she's looking out the window and sees this like accident. It happens so quick you don't even really see it. I think that's how they kind of meant it to look like. So she sees this accident from like a pizza truck, hit this just random dude. The guy that was hit by the pizza truck gets investigated by Shazia, and she's like, hey, I'm an investigator. I just want to see, what happened using this thing called a recaller. She was like, I know sometimes memories can be unreliable, but it can kind of evaluate who was at fault, really. So they look through his memory, and he sees some stuff, and then it leads her to another person, which really just isn't important. So it leads her to another person, I think, and it's just not that important, really. So the cool thing with the recaller is that Shazia says that memories can be influenced. There was a scene where someone remembers a jacket being a bright green jacket, and she was like, oh, it was a yellow jacket. And he was like, oh yeah, yellow. So one witness remembers seeing Mia looking out of her hotel room window, and Shazia's like, boom, gonna crack the case. She uses this like scanner to figure out her identity and figures out it's actually Mia. So she tells her husband, I think it's her husband, her boyfriend or something, hey, I'm gonna go find Mia. She's like 60 miles out of town, but I'll be back. Shazia is heading to go see Mia. What else I thought was really cool too in this episode is that they use other senses in order to help memory. We've all heard that smell is the strongest sense tied to memory. Apparently that whole place smells like a brewery, which I guess we were very fortunate that the whole place smelled like a brewery, and she would just crack a beer, and each time everyone was like, oh, you giving me a beer? And she's like, no, just smell it, which I guess it is a weird request. And then they use the song Anyone, and I'm like, oh, here we go. There's only one song in Black Mirror, but so they use that, and then as Shazia is driving to Mia, she's singing that song, knocks on Mia's door. Mia's like, I'm not gonna talk to you, just go away. Shazia's like, well, I'm gonna have to go get a warrant, and that looks kind of bad. She's like, well, I guess, okay, so come in real quick. And she was saying, well, this is a recaller. It's going to look at your memories that night. And Mia's like freaking the fuck out. And then she's like, oh, do you want a cup of coffee? And she's just like, oh, yes, that'd be lovely. So she uses the loudest Keurig imaginable. And I'm trying to like better understand what the technology is like in the future, because we see all this technology that's just insane and like transferring consciousness and stuff like that. And then the Keurig is a lot of fucking thing. Like there's a Keurig upstairs right now that is not that loud. Mia goes to the bathroom and is like, okay, think. I got room service. I watched like a porn, blah, 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 and trying to like get that in her memory in order to prevent the other memories from seeping through. Shazia starts interviewing her. Shazia ends up like seeing the room, and like, so she kind of did a little memory trick on herself, but then Shazia ends up seeing like what really happened, that Mia actually killed Rob, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna go now, bye. And then like, I think she could have done it a little bit better, because Mia obviously didn't understand that she had like given up that stuff, and she would have been like, okay, yes, I see, it was going 30 miles an hour, thank you so much for your time, and got out of there alive, and then just called the police. But Shazia is like, like real awkward, and then Mia's like, well, and you obviously know that she's a killer, so why would you, like, I get you're nervous, but come on, like, try to put on a better face than that. She goes out there, gets in the car, and then the car doesn't start. And, like, I see this, it's a trope throughout a lot of movies, but this car was just fine. I don't understand. I really don't get why that car didn't start. So it just kind of seemed like, oh, we're not starting just to not start and have it be part of the story. Well, then Mia goes and she's like, oh, I didn't do any. Sometimes I think the craziest things, like killing people twice. And then she grabs this rock. If you guys watch her swing, she swings that rock the goofiest way I've ever seen anyone swing a rock, and like hits the window, and then like she didn't even try for the door. I mean, I'm sure Shazia locked it, but I mean, at least try, you know, make it a little more believable. Then we see Shazia is all tied up, and Shazia's like, I promise I won't go to the cops or anything like that. It's actually against the law. It's kind of like confessional. And Mia's like, yeah, you're lying, aren't you? And she's like, oh no, of course not, I'm not lying. And then Mia was like, did you tell anyone that you were coming here? And Shazia's like, no. Well, let's see about that. And uses the recaller on her, which is like, oh, that's really cool. And then shows her singing Anyone, because we have to have that song a billion times in these episodes. Lo and behold, it shows Shazia telling her husband/boyfriend, and Mia's like, well, y'all know what's gonna happen. And then they do like an off-screen killing, which I thought was really good. So then Mia was like, well, I guess I gotta go kill the guy. And then I'm like, man, this is just a lot of killing to cover up. So it kind of pulled me out, and I'm like, she's just killing to solve all her problems. That's not really that good. So she goes to Shazia's husband's house. The dude's like on his phone and not really paying attention, but like the way Mia's like stepping in the room, like she's in the middle of the room, and the guy just gets up and doesn't even see her, which I guess was like, okay, I guess it's kind of we're glued to our phones, so we don't even realize. But man, I got periffs, and I just couldn't not see her. So he goes up and he's like, oh, you know what sounds really good right now? A hot bath. Gets in the bathtub. She walks in, and like he like conveniently left the door open. I was like, okay, I guess to, you know, not make a noise. But this house looked really old, so I feel like everything was gonna creak. And she's right over him with a hammer, and right as she's about to like swing, and like his eyes are closed too, and I'm like, who just keeps her eyes? I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of setup, like just to get her close enough, because obviously this guy is like would be able to physically overpower her. And Mia's phone vibrates, and he like opens his eyes, pauses for a second, like doesn't like see someone that he doesn't know, shrouded up with a hammer, standing over him, like about to kill him, standing right over him. And he just sat there with his arms to his side, looks up for about a second and a half, and was like, hey. And then she just smacks him with a hammer, and he's like, oh, ouch. And like, he didn't even put his hands up, which you think if someone's coming at you like that, surprises you, you're going to put your hands. So like, this dude had the worst reflexes in the world, and probably deserved it, honestly. If you have that bad of reflexes, I don't feel any pity for you. She ends up smacking him another time, and he's donezo in the tub, bloodied out and everything like that. Then she's about to walk out, and she's feeling like, oh, I just killed another person. When is it going to end? And then you hear a baby crying, and I'm like, there was a kid. That sucks. And then it shows her outside the room looking at the kid, cute ass kid standing up in the crib and everything like that, and baby's crying. And then it cuts to, I guess Mia had a kid that had a recital or whatever, and it's showing the kids singing, and Mia walks in and sits down next to her husband, and then the kid does his little performance with the rest of the kids, and everyone starts clapping. Well, everyone stands up at this, and this is something that it has nothing to do with the story. It's just something that I particularly pointed out. Mia's husband could not clap to save his life, because it is so off. And it really, another thing that pulled me out of this episode, they cut back to the house, and the cops have gotten there where Shazia's husband and baby were at, and they were like, wow, who kills a kid? And I was like, damn, Mia killed a kid. That's pretty crazy. They were like, yeah, poor bastard was born blind. And then I was like, whoa, like, okay, like that's a bit of a twist there. And I thought for a second, with how bad the peripheral sight from the dad was, that it was even the dad, but I had to rewind. I was like, they wouldn't say born blind to the guy. They would just say he was blind. So the kid was born blind. And so obviously the thing was she didn't have to kill the kid. But then guess what? There was a guinea pig, and the guinea pig saw the whole thing, and I guess they're gonna ask it questions. I don't know how you get one out of I get the concept, but you kind of have to ask questions. I don't think the guinea pig's gonna remember. So that's Crocodile episode. And it was kind of a long episode. It was a little drawn out, and there wasn't much punch to it. Like, I get the twist at the end. However, it was one of the weaker installments of Black Mirror. I'll probably never watch it again, honestly, because a lot of these have repeatability. So far, one of my least favorite episodes of this season. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. You can like and subscribe. You can even click the bell next to the subscribe, so next time you see my next video for the next episode, or even any of the other things that I'll do, you'll be able to get that notification. You can look at all of my other pages. I have an Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, everything like that, and keep you updated on what I'm doing next. If you got any ideas for what you want me to review next, just leave them in the comments. I will catch you guys next time.